Next part is like the beginning. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai dai dai, and then yai dai 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 da dai dai. Try that. Yai dai 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 da dai da. From the beginning. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Now, I know some of you are singing because you're raising your eyebrows nicely at me. Others are kind of rocking back and forth, which tells me that, you kind of have a little bit of the vibe in your body. Um, but let's try it again, and you can even close your eyes because there's no words. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. So if it's your first time here, you might think that's the end of the song. But if it's not your first time here, you know it's not the end of the song. Second part goes like this. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Try that. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Try that. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. And then we do the first part of the second part again. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Okay? Nod your head, even if it's not okay. Let's try to sing this two more times through. And each time that we sing it, we'll be a little more confident, and we'll hear a little more of the people around us singing, and we'll kind of weave kind of a fabric of song and melody. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Yai dai dai da 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 dai da 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 dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 da dai dai. Well, welcome again. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Tom Goodhertz. If you are a regular or if this is your first time here, we welcome you to be together a little bit, to pray a little bit. I know we have some guests from a class at UVA to observe a little bit, but even if you're observing, you could still be singing along with us if you need to. Hope you all got a prayer book when you came in, and just a word of advice. It's a Hebrew prayer book, meaning that we're moving from right to left. The pages move from right to left. And the first thing we're going to do now, and Jan, can I ask you to light the Shabbat candles today? We'll turn to page 120, and we'll light the Shabbat candles, and then maybe we'll just do a little bit of song to a possibly recognizable melody. Page 120. And let's read together on page 121, the paragraph in the middle of the page. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. So I invite you to turn to page 142. And the first of the sort of songs to welcome the Shabbat are welcome. We just welcomed those to this sanctuary, and there's a lot of welcoming that we actually do in this service. In fact, the name of the service is called Kabbalat Shabbat, which means to receive or to welcome the Sabbath. So this song is called Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem is just the way that you greet an ordinary person. You see them on the street, you say, Shalom Aleichem. Try that. Yeah, and if you're a Yiddish speaker, then you say back, Aleichem Shalom. Right, I was reading in a book that Yiddish is probably the only language in which even the way that you say hello has an implied criticism. You say Shalom Aleichem, and then you reply Aleichem Shalom. That's good. But in this case, we're welcoming the angels, the Sabbath angels. We're going to welcome the angels of peace, this sort of spiritual property of the Sabbath and of the rest and the peace of the Sabbath. We're welcoming that into our consciousness and awareness. We are also in a few moments going to welcome the Sabbath as a bride, as a queen. We welcome one another with these words, Shalom Aleichem, or maybe when you came into the building, Shabbat Shalom. So, we are meant to be hosts not only to those who come from far away, but a heavenly queen or a distant traveler, but also one another, our friends and our family. And this is a time, at least in our hearts, as we sing this word over and over again, Shalom, 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 to make peace with those who may have ignored or quarreled with before the Shabbat. And finally, we're going to welcome another spiritual property, which we call the additional soul, the additional Sabbath soul. And the rabbis teach that when the Sabbath begins, each one of us gets a neshama yetera, which could be literally an additional soul, or it could just mean more soul, greater soul. So we want to welcome the neshama yetera, the deeper breath, the deeper interiority, the deeper insideness of Shabbat as we sing Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Leshalom, Malachi HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Leshalom, Malachi HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem Leshalom, Malachi HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn back to page 138, and this time we're going to welcome the Sabbath as in the image of a bride or a queen or a regal, sort of very special presence that comes into the room and comes into our space. The custom is we'll sing the chorus a few times. We'll do the first two verses on page 138, and then we'll do the chorus on the verse on page 139, the very last one, verse 9. And the custom is to rise for that verse, to face towards the entrance of the synagogue, and on the words Boi Kala, we will take a little deep bow, come back up, and imagine that with that bow we are bringing the Sabbath fully and finally into this room. So the chorus we're going to do. Lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Kabbalat O lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Ushemo echad L'shem ultiferet ve'letchila O lechad dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabla O lecha dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. We say, come with me to meet Shabbat, forever a fountain of blessing. Still it flows as from the start, the last of days created, for which the first was made. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habaracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה הולך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה הולך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת nekabela. So we rise and face the door. The last verse on page 139. Boi b'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzola toch emunei Am segula boi chala olecha dali likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabla olecha dali likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. And we remain standing. We actually come to the formal call to prayer, which is on page 146. I'm going to call out to you, and you'll respond to me. Baruch hu et Adonai המבורך. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. This first prayer that we do now is an evening prayer about noticing the time and the changing of the times. Tonight I wanted to read you in place of this prayer a beautiful poem by the Yiddish poet Jacob Gladstein. It's called Praying the Evening Prayer. I'll let you in on a secret about how one should pray the evening prayer. It's a juicy bit of praying, like strolling on grass. Nobody's chasing you, nobody hurries you. You walk towards your Creator with gifts in pure, empty hands. The words are golden, their meaning is transparent. It's as though you're saying them for the first time. If you don't catch on that you should be a little elevated, you're not really praying the evening prayer. The tune is sheer simplicity. You're just lending a helping hand to the sinking day. It's a heavy responsibility. You take a day, in this case a week, and you slip it into the archive of life where all our lived out days are lying together. The day and the week are departing with a quiet kiss. It lies open at your feet while you stand saying blessings. You can't create anything yourself, but you can lead the day to its end and see clearly the smile of its going down. See how whole it all is, not diminished for a second. How you age with the days that keep dawning, and how you bring your lived out day as a gift to eternity. I'm going to invite us to sing on page 150, Ahavat Olam. A song about love and Torah and revelation and closeness. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokvenu, kumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם בלילה, נהגה יומם בלילה, באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמי. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. We turn to page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. On page 154, we are chanting in the melody from which we chanted in the Torah, a chapter from the Torah, some verses from the book of Deuteronomy, beginning with "You shall love Adonai with all your heart." We'll chant it in the Hebrew, and then we'll read it together in the English. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך hayom al levavecha, veshinanta ham levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlechtecha havaderech, uvshachbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvihisharecha. Together, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Turning to page 158. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la la ya la 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 la. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh. No ra tehilot, osef eleh. No ra tehilot, osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'hanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Ze'eli, anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. We are marching, we are marching, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, we are marching, we are marching in the light of God. And on page 161 and page 160. In the evening, we always pray this prayer on Shabbat and on weekdays, asking for God to spread over us a tabernacle of peace. As the sun goes down and the darkness comes, we feel the need for shelter and protection. And these days especially, these words like, let there be love and understanding among us, and let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms, are more than just a vain prayer. They're actually a very powerful prayer. So we're going to do together, singing at the top of page 161, the first two lines, and then jump over to 160 and sing the same words in the Hebrew. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Let's read it together on page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious, merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and peace evermore. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Turn to page 162. And this prayer is actually another selection from the Torah. At the top of the page, inviting us or commanding us or reminding us that the people of Israel will keep the Sabbath in every generation as a covenant for all time. So we sing, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, dorotam brit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, brit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, Oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, v'dorotam brit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, v'dorotam brit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat v'inafash, Shabbat v'inafash, Shabbat v'inafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam brit olam. Turning the page to page 164, the next part of our service is called Amidah, which means standing. We're going to just begin this service, this part of the service together with a kind of a song invoking blessing and asking for the ability to pray or to find the words. Really, we've been praying for a long time. Now to find the words that are alive for us at this moment. Words that we could, or thoughts, or intentions, or hopes, or struggles that we would want to articulate as prayers. So we'll do this little kavanah, this little intention, and then invite people to continue and do either the words on the page, or enjoy the standing, or enjoy the silence, until we get, you may follow in your prayer book all the way to page 180. You may do it standing. If you find it's easier to sit and just close your eyes and meditate, then that's okay too. I'm going to sit and gives my bad hips a little break now, so I'm going to do it sitting down today, but you can do it however you wish to do it. It's your time, and it's we'll fill the silence with the intention and the prayers of each one of us. So I invite you to rise on page 164. We'll do this little part together, and then take some time just for inner work and inner prayer, and even just to enjoy the silence and the breathing and the standing. Anananananana Adonai, Ananananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Ananananana Adonai, Ananananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. So on page 180, in just a moment, we'll conclude this part of the service with a prayer for peace. As all our parts, each part of the service concludes with these words. Before that, I want to read a prayer for peace for that part of the world that our thoughts are always there and constantly these days. So it goes like this. Holy One of Blessing, Avinu Shabashamayim, send your light and your righteousness to the leaders and ministers of all the peoples, and align them with the spirit of justice from you. Rescue all the inhabitants of the region from the cycles of violence and shedding of blood, from haters without and from hatred within. Grant comfort to those who are fearful for the safety of their loved ones and themselves. Strengthen those who want to embrace a path of reconciliation and peace that preserves the rights and the dignity of all your children. Grant peace in the land and security to all its inhabitants, and bring again a spirit of real hope for a better future for all her peoples. Let us say Amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, ya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'himru, Amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. La 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. So tonight, this week actually, we're in the midst of reading from the Torah. If we were reading the Torah tonight and took it out, we'd be reading the story of a story about community, actually, about the entire Israelite community that, following its exodus from Egypt, comes together, each person bringing their own gifts, their own talents, and what they have for the building of a tabernacle, of a holy space, a tabernacle that had the menorah that's next to me, and the tablets of the law behind me, and light is burning all the time, and also a table with some shewbread, which we don't have, but we do have some challah outside later. And each person brought their own contribution according to what was necessary to build that sacred space. And this week we continue with that building process, and the people are called upon to bring items to make the get-up for the priests. You know, they're very, very complicated and fancy ephod and breastplate and hat and loincloth and all kinds of different things. I know that some of you are here tonight because you want to participate in the project that we're going to do just after the service, which is to create a small or medium-sized, I'm not going to use the word huge, mural here at CBI that kind of reflects like our community. And Audrey, if you just raise your hand over there, Audrey Markoff is our artist in residence. And after we go out and have just a quick bite to eat, everybody here is invited to make one little leaf, one little piece of what we hope would be a mural that reflects our community, both its artistic expression and also its values. So I thought as a way of getting us started, I could use some help here distributing these papers. Yeah, thank you. So everyone has passage from the tone describes some material. begins with a statement. It begins with a statement. It comes from the Talmud, which, if you're not familiar, is a collection of Jewish teachings, compiled over hundreds of years and collected over hundreds of years. Basically, the discussions of the rabbis to kind of clarify anything about Jewish law. I mean, for example, what oil may you use to light the menorah, and how does it stand, in what direction? And in this case, does everybody have a sheet? Okay. In this case, we're going to look at this text, which kind of gives us a way of bringing out some ideas. I thought we'd just jog some of our creative thinking by reflecting or bouncing off of this text. So it's a text from the Talmud that begins with the words, "A Torah scholar is not permitted to reside in any city that does not have these 10 things." So let's make the blessing for the study of Torah. And then I'm going to read the text, or someone else could read it. And then I'll tell you what we're going to do with it. So the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We praise you, Adonai, for making our life holy with commandments and for commanding us to engage in the study of Torah. Does somebody want to read the statement? Someone want to channel the rabbis? The anonymous voice of the rabbis? It's just, it's not in anybody's name. Elliot, please. So that's 10. Right? That was the original passage. But they appended also Rabbi Akiva has something else to say, and so? Okay, so illuminate, I'll just say a few words that maybe, just for clarification, to illumine the eyes, Me'ir Einayim. What do you think that means, to illuminate the eyes? It doesn't mean to shine your flashlight in your eye. That obviously wouldn't be the right thing to do. I think it just means it brings like joy and delight and awareness and higher consciousness to what? And glints of light brings light in the sense of bringing light into the world in the sense of not just physical light, but what we see, right? What we see through our eyes is in a different light. So, what do you think I'm going to do now? I want us to divide up into groups of maybe 4 or 5 people and to look over this list. If you have any questions about anything now, no one has yet asked about a bloodletter, but now would be the time to ask if there's something you don't understand on the list. Does anybody know what bloodletting is? Yeah? Does anybody know the Yiddish expression "Ziege helfen via Tatenbankes"? No. So bankes is the Yiddish word for cupping, which is not quite the same as bloodletting, but it's similar. Has anybody ever had themselves cupped? Anybody here? Yes, at least 1, 2. Okay. So it's coming back in some places. It was an old folk medicine where you would take a hot cup and heat it up with heat and put it on the body, and it brings the blood to the surface. It also burns you a little bit. It's a little bit painful, but and it was one way that they knew of circulating the blood, to try and get the blood to circulate. The other way would be leeches, right? There are other ways to sort of purify the blood. So bankes is cupping. Ziege helfen via Tatenbankes means this will help like cupping helps a dead person. My mother-in-law used to say this all the time when I would make some suggestion about something that we ought to do, and she said, "Sige, helfen wir Taten Bankes." I mean, this will help. This is going to be as useful as cupping a dead person. Okay, just if that's all you learned tonight, then you got your education on Shabbat. Here's what I want to do. I thought we would take a look at these and try to translate them, right? Translate them, try to figure out what they meant in the old days, why they were important, right? Why they were important for a community, and then maybe see if we could translate them into one or two things, or both. One could be like to put values, the names of values on these different things. What are the kind of values that the sages said a person should look for in a city? And if we wanted to, if your group is creative, you might even want to just kind of translate them through time, to de-anachronize them, right? To sort of say, well, today, what would be those things? Like in those days, maybe a ritual slaughterer should be, a place where people can get the right food that they need. So today, maybe a Torah scholar shouldn't live in a town that doesn't have a Whole Foods or something like that. I mean, it might look different in our day, Or what would it be? Would it be Trader Joe's? Would it be Kroger? I mean, what would it be, right? So what would these look like? First of all, to try and put some values on them. And second, to try and update them. Maybe if it seems like we don't need a blood letter, you might want to think, what's the difference between a doctor or healer and a blood letter, right? What's the importance of a public bathroom, right? A bathhouse. I'm going to think in the old days was also a place where people would meet and gather. It was a social place. It wasn't just for hygiene, but also a social place like it is in many places. So go ahead and divide up into groups of maybe 5 or 4, or form yourself into groups. Make sure you introduce yourselves to the people who are going to help you study Torah. And let's take about 5 or 6 minutes to do this, okay? So you can get up and walk around if you need to. Sit down next to somebody you don't know. And, you get up and walk around. What are the values? What are the values? Why don't you guys, go sit in front so you can talk to one another. Yeah, great. That's the other side. The other side. You can join a group if you want. Want to join a group? Huh? la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya da da, ya da, ya da da. Okay, I heard some good conversation. Now it's time to share. Anybody want to share something that came from your group, either the values that you identified or questions? Yeah, yeah, says Amy. Okay, say your name, by the way, when you say something, so that we can get to learn each other's names a little bit. Which one? Cemetery. Very interesting. Yeah. Yes, that is the case here for sure. Our cemetery goes back to the 18, I think, 20s, right? Or 30s. So the earliest grave is there in the 20s and 30s. And this synagogue is only from 1884. So, yes, that's true. Tell us your name, though. Iga. So, yes, so you guys found something that was missing, and I think that's definitely true. Yeah, what else did you notice about this list, or what values did you find in it? Yeah. The charity part. Yeah, so I wonder about that. Huh? What did y'all think about that? Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I don't know the answer, but I think that's perfectly reasonable, that the important thing is the distribution of the charity. And the more people who are out there giving it out, there's the more people who know who need it, and it gets to more people that, yeah, that need it. Anybody else have other thoughts about that? Yeah, Sydney. Yeah, or or maybe like you said, maybe you need three people to decide, who will get the charity. Like three is, Sydney just said that three is a number you need for a rabbinical court, right? Is three, you have three judges or three rabbis or three elders. Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah, hell yeah. Yes. Yeah, so I think maybe the answer is that this was written by Torah scholars, like that this is and the idea is that I think in their own minds at least, a Torah scholar is one who maybe adheres to the highest standards of integrity. Let's use the word integrity, and that's part of being a Torah scholar, and right, that where you live also has an impact on the kind of life you can live, or your environment has an influence on you as well. So a Torah scholar should only live in this community, these kind of being the major values. Yeah. Other thoughts that came up in your groups? Were there any you couldn't understand? Like, why are they there? Like, what the heck are they doing there? What do you think about the scribe? Anybody talk about the scribe? Right? In a time when maybe, I'm going to say people are literate, but maybe could mean an accountant. It could mean, in our days, it could be a lawyer, I'm thinking maybe. Something like that in our time. Right. Yeah. And a scribe, and not everybody perhaps could write or had the ability to write clearly, or maybe a scribe was authorized. Maybe a scribe is like a notary public that like certifies that this is a legal document or transaction. Yeah. 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 It could be like a recording, yeah, like that, like a historian or an archivist who keeps track of like the goings on in the town. And it's important to have a communal memory for a place. It's important for a place to know where it came from and what it consists of. Yeah. So that idea of memory, history. Yeah. Anything else? Sydney. Yeah. So you use the words like a diverse environment, maybe an environment that also has some beauty in it. I mean, I think the idea of the fruit teas, or maybe flavor, so to speak. Yeah. So that in our days, we might translate that into like public parks or green spaces or things like that. Um, you know, it could also be that, that those orchards would be open to people. That could be a source of food for people, like community gardens or, fruit is different than evergreens. You can't eat an evergreen, but you can eat from fruit trees and they provide food for people. So it could be maybe an allegory to a community garden or a food bank, maybe, or something. I didn't see food here. Yeah, that we do not live by bread alone, right? That's also the soul, the spirit needs to be nurtured. Give us bread, but give us roses, as they sing up in Massachusetts. Did what? Flogging. No, flogging. No, flogging is one of, there are many, I mean, there are so many laws in the Torah and they all come with the power of enforcement, right? So flogging is sort of, I don't know if it's the serious or the least serious or the most serious, but there's stoning, there's flogging, there's all kinds of punishments for different, there's an entire tractate of the Talmud called Sanhedrin, which metes out punishment. So it's like a physical fine, if you will. I don't think it mentions fines here. But yeah, so there was physical punishment. Yeah, definitely. I didn't live back then, but they certainly do talk about it quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, in the Talmud, right? It had all the kind of punishments, even up to the death penalty, which seems to have been very rare and not used that often. But in theory, it exists. The Torah says over and over again, they shall therefore die, right? Over and over again. So sometimes the Torah prescribes they shall be cut off from their people, which could be a kind of sanction, social sanction, maybe a cherem, excommunication. I mean, in ancient days, we did not have a prison industrial complex. Okay? You don't see a prison here. There's no prison on this. There's no prison. Often it would be either social ostracism, it could be a fine, it could be lashes, it could be exile. I think in many ancient cultures you'd be exiled from the city, and that would be the punishment, right? But you don't have prison, right? It's just interesting to me, at least. They had cities. Well, they had places where you could flee if you had inadvertently committed a crime, like cities of refuge, where if you killed somebody accidentally, again, it wouldn't be the courts that would have taken care of that. It would have been the family that would exact, revenge and justice for the family. So if you got afoul of that, there were cities, at least in the Israelite communities, where you could flee and for involuntary manslaughter. Yeah. Other things that you noticed on the list. Any modern, any values that could you put values on these ideas? Could you put words on them? So justice would be the court, maybe. Cleanliness in the sense of the public bathroom, right? That people's physical needs need to be met as well, including their bodily needs. Yeah. Hmm? Education is a big one, right? A teacher, and there must be a teacher in the town. Why do you think there needs to be a teacher? Aren't the Torah scholars teachers? Why would they need to have another teacher in the town? What do you think? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the idea that education really, that young, in a time when children often would go off to work, I'm going to imagine in those days, there are many cultures where children did not get an education. You went off to work, we went to work, and that was just it. So here they insisted that there be schools, basically public schools, and teachers to create, fill in the blank. What is that? What does that give us? Knowledge, an educated citizenry, right? Maybe a citizenry with shared values, perhaps, or I'm not quite sure exactly. But yes, they insisted that there needed to be a teacher of young children in the town. Yeah. Right. Or to become a scribe, or to become a judge, or anything, right? But the idea that education is something that's prioritized, is something that's, yeah, right, right. You're Yeah, no no gig economy. I mean, people grew up learning a skill, and to be able to earn a living from that skill. No, I'm not joking, but yeah, seriously. Yeah, right. Or you might almost assume that maybe some families didn't need such a teacher, that maybe they had those skills in their own family, but that there needed to be one for the public, for everyone. Yeah. So it's not so much education, but the public aspect of it. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. 10 is, the rabbis are always making lists of 10. That's why they had to give Rabbi Akiva a little special extra, because they needed the 10, but his opinion was also counted. Yeah, his opinion was also counted. So, yeah, thank you. This is interesting. If you come back tomorrow, Elliot and Jan, I don't know if you'll be here, but I'm going to bring this tomorrow to the Minyan too. I think there's a lot in here, and I think, I was interested to find this list and to see how the things that they felt were necessary. And maybe when we go out into the room in just a few minutes and start to create our little section um, of our community, maybe it gives you an inspiration. I don't know exactly how Audrey's going to be able to work with that inspiration, but that's her problem, not mine. At least we have a sense of what a community looks like. Great. Well, thank you. If you want to take those home, you can. Otherwise, just pass them down and we'll collect them later. I wanted to offer a prayer of healing before we conclude our service. So, it's on page 109, if you wish to have the words. There's a lot of need for a lot of healing in the world. But if you wish to mention in specific the name of a person for whom you want us to pray, and if you want to mention it either quietly to yourself or out loud, you may do so when I pass my hand across the congregation. So if you need the words on page 109, or if you know this, we just pray together. Mi shebeira avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeira imotenu mekor habracha lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And we rise on page 586 in the middle of the page for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shapeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Our last formal prayer is the last Kaddish of the service, and it's the mourner's Kaddish. This week in our congregation, we are remembering Evelyn Linden Baldwin, Carl Beltman, Regina Carlson, Benjamin Cohen, Bernadine Curry, Shirley Flesh, Walter Heilbronner, Edith Helsel, Fred Leffler, Yaakov Naftali, Herbert Ostroff, Lorraine Pierce, Max Samuels, Robin Stone, Abraham Wellen and Sanford Wellen, Helen Graber Wiener, and Pauline Litt. We are still observing periods of mourning, Shiva or Shloshim, for Ami Cohen, brother of Elon Cohen, and for Carol Alexander, the partner of the late Michael Alexander, our father of Rabbi Dan. So those who are observing periods of mourning, or those who wish to join the mourners, are invited to rise. The Mourners' Kaddish is on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam leolmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudusha brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. So the only announcement I have is that you are all welcome. People have brought some food. We've ordered some food if you want to stick around and have a bite. We'll go into the other room. We'll make the kiddush and the motzi. We'll bless the wine and the bread. And then if you want to grab a bite for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then we're going to turn it over to Audrey, who will tell us how she's going to do this mural and how we can all be part of it. Signed up or not, we have enough gesundheit. We have enough material for everybody. So I would just want to mention that this Artist in Residence weekend is generously funded, in part by the United Jewish Fund for Charlottesville, and so we're grateful for that support to make this beautiful. Are there other announcements? What's going on in the community? Gesundheit is a public announcement. So let's end the way we began. Hopefully, we know this song a little better, and we have a little belly of Torah, some teaching, some wisdom, some prayer, some silence, and I hope you all got to know somebody who you didn't know before. And when we're doing our work out there too, let's make sure you say hello to somebody you don't know and introduce yourself. I don't know how that would show up on our list of community. Maybe it would be a person who hands out name tags or something like that. No, I actually seriously about that. In ancient Rome, if you were a senator, one of the perks of being a senator was that you had a guy who walked behind you, and he was called a nomenclator. And the nomenclator's job was to walk behind you and say, "That guy over there, his name is Jim. You married his cousin. His father-in-law owes you money," whatever it is, But so that people, when they walk through the street, would be known and recognized. And if someone can give me a good title for that person on our community list, I would love to know. Yay, da, 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 da. Shabbat shalom. Good Shabbos to everyone.